Caitlin Clark didn't hold a press conference, release a statement, or break the news on social media. She just casually said it during a golf game. She's back at 100%. After a season shadowed by injury concerns and intense speculation, this quiet confirmation hit with the weight of a headline. Not only does it silence doubts about her condition, but also sends a message. Clark is ready to take full command of the Indiana Fever's next chapter. In a league teetering on uncertainty, her confidence stands out as a rare anchor. The implications of Clark's health go beyond personal comeback stories. It's a turning point for Fever and for the league's broader momentum. Her ability to step into a leadership role without physical restrictions reshapes expectations and strategy.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The front office no longer has excuses. Clark is cleared, confident, and poised to lead. Now, it's on the organization to build a team worthy of that momentum, and on the league to stabilize before its stars start looking elsewhere. Caitlin Clark is officially back, and at 100%. No more rehab, no more speculation, no more lingering questions about whether she'll be ready. She said it herself casually during a golf game of all places. She's fully recovered and back to peak form. Just like that, the entire conversation around Indiana Fever and the WNBA's upcoming season shifted. Clark's announcement wasn't buried in some press release or fed through a PR machine. It came straight from her with no fanfare. But the impact? Immediate. Because after a season clouded by injury setbacks and questions about durability, her declaration closed the door on doubt. She's healthy, she's ready, and she's stepping back into the spotlight with zero restrictions. That means the Indiana Fever are officially on the clock. Clark's recovery eliminates every excuse the franchise might have leaned on. Last season, it was easy to blame underperformance on growing pains, on chemistry issues, or on her physical limitations. Not anymore. Now that she's at full strength, the pressure flips entirely. The front office has no wiggle room. It's time to build around her, or answer for failing to. And fans are watching. Closely. The moment Clark said she was back, expectations skyrocketed. Not just for her individual performance, but for the Fever's entire outlook. The playoffs are no longer a dream. They're a requirement. With Clark healthy, anything less than a competitive season will be seen as failure. And that pressure? It doesn't just sit on her shoulders. It now lands squarely on management. But while Clark was confirming her comeback, Sophie Cunningham was not so sure about hers. At the same casual event where Clark dropped her update, Cunningham sent shockwaves of her own, just in the opposite direction. As a free agent, she admitted she doesn't know if she's returning to the Indiana Fever next season. And her reasoning? It had nothing to do with performance and everything to do with what's happening off the court. There's a storm brewing in the WNBA, and Cunningham didn't hold back in naming it. The looming collective bargaining negotiations, the very real possibility of a league lockout, and a general lack of long-term financial clarity. Her comments were blunt. Players want multi-year contracts. They want security, and right now, they're not getting enough of it. It's a stark contrast. On one side, Clark is doubling down on her commitment, putting full weight behind her recovery and her readiness to lead. On the other, Cunningham is being realistic, even cautious, about what her future in the league looks like. It's not about loyalty or effort. It's about sustainability. And this isn't just about two players with different perspectives. It's about a much bigger issue, the unstable ground the league is standing on. While the WNBA tries to market its stars and ride the wave of increased visibility, the business side is wobbly. The collective bargaining agreement is still unresolved. Extensions have kept things from boiling over, but everyone knows the clock is ticking. A lockout isn't off the table. And that's enough to make players nervous, especially those not named Caitlin Clark. Because if you're not the league's golden goose, the stakes are different. You have to think long-term. You have to ask whether you're going to have a job in 6 months. Cunningham's uncertainty is a reflection of that reality. She's not out here for headlines. She's speaking from a place of lived experience, of watching this league fluctuate year after year with no guarantees. And now, there's another variable, Project B. If you haven't been following it, here's what you need to know. Project B is throwing around real money, multi-year deals, minimum salaries of $2 million per year. That's not theoretical cash. That's concrete, generational income being offered to top-tier talent. And it's not coming from the WNBA. For players like Cunningham, this changes everything. You're looking at a situation where loyalty to one league could cost you millions. Overseas options used to be about filling the gap in the offseason. Now, they're offering an alternative path. A full-on career switch with better pay and better security. So when Cunningham says she's unsure about coming back, she's not being dramatic. She's being smart. She's looking at the whole landscape and doing what any professional would do, considering all her options. And this is where things get complicated for the league, because you can't keep promoting player empowerment while failing to offer long-term contracts. You can't pretend everything's fine when some of your veterans are openly questioning whether the WNBA is even worth staying in. That contradiction is becoming harder to hide, especially when stars like Clark and Cunningham are making their positions clear. Clark, with her health and platform intact, is betting on the league. She's choosing to build her brand within its structure, for now. But Cunningham? She's pointing directly at cracks. She's saying what a lot of players are thinking but haven't said out loud. This system might not be sustainable. And the truth is, both of them are right. Clark represents what the league could be. A world-class athlete, fully healthy, fully committed, and ready to elevate her team and the league as a whole. She's star power, sponsorship gold, and cultural relevance all rolled into one. Her presence brings attention, dollars, and momentum. But Cunningham represents what the league actually is. A place where even established players have to second-guess whether they're valued. A place where stability is rare and financial upside is often found outside the borders of the WNBA. So now, the question becomes, who's going to blink first? Will the league step up and finalize a CBA that offers real security? Will it recognize that the same players who build its foundation need more than applause? They need contracts that reflect their worth? Or will it continue banking on star power like Clark's, hoping that visibility alone will carry the league forward? Because here's the catch. Clark can't do it all. Her full recovery might electrify the season, but it won't solve structural issues. It won't keep veterans from walking away. It won't fix the instability players are forced to navigate year after year. What it can do is buy the league time. Time to get its house in order. Time to show that it's listening. Time to offer solutions before players decide to take their talents and their futures elsewhere. Right now, women's basketball is on the edge of something big. Between Clark's confirmed return, Cunningham's public doubt, and the rise of external options like Project B, the upcoming season could go in one of two directions. It could be the start of a new era, one where players are respected, compensated, and supported in ways that reflect the true value they bring. Or it could be the beginning of a slow unraveling, where talent quietly exits and the league is left wondering what went wrong. It all depends on what happens next. Comment below with your thoughts. Is Clark's return enough to stabilize the league, or are Cunningham's concerns more serious than fans realize? Like if you think player empowerment is changing everything. Share if you're watching this drama unfold. And make sure to subscribe, because the next chapter of this story is coming fast. Caitlin Clark says she's back. Fully healthy. No more rehab. No more asterisks. No more uncertainty. And just like that, the conversation around her, the Indiana Fever, and the WNBA as a whole flipped overnight. But as Clark confidently stepped back into the spotlight, another voice, one that should have been a calm, routine presence, sent ripples through the league. Sophie Cunningham, sitting just feet away at the same casual outing, hinted at something nobody was expecting. She might not come back at all. And that contrast couldn't be louder. Clark's declaration of readiness signaled momentum. Cunningham's uncertainty pulled the brakes. On paper, it looks like two players in two different moments. But dig deeper, and you realize they're both signs of the same thing, a league that's standing at a crossroads, holding its breath. Let's break this down. Clark saying she's 100% changes everything. The excuses about development timelines and post-injury hesitations? Gone. It means the Fever are no longer rebuilding. They're now a team with a generational talent who's fully operational. And that forces the front office to act like it, No more waiting for her to find her rhythm. She's found it. So if the Fever don't invest in building a roster that can match her capabilities, it's not on her. It's on them. The narrative shifts. It becomes about whether the team can rise to meet her potential, not whether she can carry them on one leg. This also throws a spotlight on the league itself. Clark isn't just a player. She's a business model now. Her recovery and commitment should be the kind of news that stabilizes the foundation of the WNBA. But instead, just as fans are getting excited, the Sophie Cunningham moment drops like a hammer. Because Sophie didn't say, "I'm exploring options." She didn't say, "We'll see what happens." She said she wasn't sure if she was coming back at all. And that speaks volumes. She's not injured. She's not retiring. She's just tired of the instability. Her comment about the league's negotiations, the looming threat of a lockout, and the lack of multi-year deals echo what too many players are thinking, but can't always say publicly. There's no guarantee the league will protect them long-term. And when you have to plan your entire life around one-year contracts and unclear futures, you start thinking about other options. Like Project B. The timing of its rise couldn't be more disruptive. A brand new league offering multi-million-dollar deals, minimums of $2 million a year for top-level players, and not as a side hustle, as a full replacement. That's not just competition. That's leverage. And that leverage changes everything. Because now, players don't have to accept short-term deals with uncertain futures. They can walk. They can choose security. They can leave the league they helped build for one that finally pays what they're worth. And that's a dilemma. Caitlin Clark represents hope. A healthy, ascending, marketable superstar who's not only committed to the WNBA, but capable of elevating it. Sophie Cunningham represents reality. That even with all that upside, players still aren't convinced the league has their backs. Both truths are happening at once. What makes this moment so tense is that fans want to believe in the future, especially now that Clark is back at full strength. They want to rally around a comeback, a breakout season, a playoff run. But the infrastructure underneath that dream is showing cracks. Because the WNBA isn't just dealing with competition on the court. It's dealing with competition off it. And Project B isn't some hypothetical threat. It's offering real money, real contracts, and real alternatives. For veterans like Cunningham, that's hard to ignore. And while Clark might not be going anywhere, players like her have the luxury of options within the league. But that's not true for everyone. For many players, staying in the WNBA means sacrificing security for passion. And in 2025, that's a harder sell than ever. That's why Cunningham's words hit so hard, because she didn't say them for effect. She said them because she's looking at her career, her life, and asking the question every professional athlete has to ask eventually. Is this still worth it? And if enough players start asking that same question, the league has a serious problem, especially when one of its biggest stars is standing right next to her, saying she's ready to go. That kind of split-screen moment tells you everything about the current state of the WNBA. The highs are higher than ever, but the floor still feels unstable. The league's leadership is now under more pressure than it's been in years. They've been handed a gift in Clark, a healthy, charismatic, bankable talent. But gifts come with responsibility. You can't keep building the marketing plan around a single star while other players feel like expendable background noise. That model doesn't scale. It alienates your base while relying too heavily on one name to carry the entire weight of the brand. And let's be real, Clark's not going to carry it forever. No athlete can. She's already said she wants to lead, to compete, to elevate. But she can't do that if the people around her are uncertain whether the league will even be around next year in its current form. That's what makes Cunningham's comments so crucial. Because they're not just about one player or one team. They're about the culture, the business model, the future, and now. With the CBA expiration looming and the possibility of a lockout growing by the day, every decision matters. This season could go two ways. It could be the season where the WNBA breaks through completely, where stars like Clark drive growth, where the league finalizes a strong CBA, where players start signing multi-year deals and settling into the kind of stability they've earned. Or it could be the season where everything fractures, where unresolved financial structures, rising competition from overseas and alternative leagues, and player frustration finally boil over. It's hard to tell which way it'll go. But we do know this. Clark's health puts everything into sharper focus. Because now, no one can say the league's biggest star isn't ready. She is. The real question is whether the league is. Clark did her part. She rehabbed. She committed. She came back strong. But the league? It still has decisions to make. Real ones. And time's running out. There's a reason Cunningham spoke up. She's not just thinking about herself. She's speaking to the hundreds of players watching this all unfold, wondering if it's safe to believe in the system again. This isn't about optimism or doubt. It's about reality. And the reality is this. The WNBA has a window right now. A chance to show players it can evolve. A chance to prove that it values everyone, not just the headline names. A chance to close the gap between promise and execution. But that window won't stay open forever. So here we are. Caitlin Clark healthy, focused, and fully locked in. Sophie Cunningham unsure, weighing her options and very publicly questioning whether the league's current structure is even worth sticking around for. 2 players. Same event. 2 completely different energies. And yet, both pulling back the curtain on a WNBA that's more unstable than it wants to admit. Clark's return should be a moment of collective celebration. A rising star, injury-free, with massive fan support and the talent to carry games, ratings, and headlines. This is the kind of storyline leagues dream about. But instead of unifying everyone around her comeback, the moment has exposed a deeper rift. Because no matter how healthy Caitlin is, she's still walking into a league where players are bracing for a lockout. Let that sink in. The CBA is expiring. Negotiations are stalling. The risk of a work stoppage is real. Players are trying to plan futures they don't know if they'll have. And here comes Clark, ready to lead a franchise and boost the league, while her teammates aren't even sure they'll have a season. That disconnect is the real issue. Clark is the face. She brings attention, ticket sales, sponsors, and viewership. But even her presence can't distract from the foundational uncertainty beneath the league's surface. The WNBA is growing, yes, but it's also fragile. And it shows every time a player like Cunningham has to be blunt about financial instability on the record. Her comments weren't about drama. They were about reality. She wanted a multi-year deal. She wants to build something sustainable. She wants what any professional deserves, the ability to plan her life with some degree of security. And she doesn't want to do it while constantly looking over her shoulder for the next league disruption. Caitlin Clark is betting on the system. Sophie Cunningham is asking why she should. And neither of them is wrong. Clark's health means this upcoming season has a potential to be massive for her, for the Fever, and for the WNBA. She'll be the centerpiece of every national broadcast, every media tour, every marketing campaign. The hype around her is real, and for good reason. She plays hard, handles the spotlight with maturity, and brings new fans to the game. But if you're a player watching all of that unfold, and your own contract situation is still up in the air, it's hard to feel like there's room for you in this new growth era. Because growth, when it only benefits a few, starts to look like a spotlight, not a rising tide. And that's where the league has to decide what kind of future it wants. Does it want to lean into this moment, invest in stability, finalize the CBA, secure multi-year deals, and support all its players? Or will it continue hoping that the excitement around Clark is enough to distract from deeper problems? It won't be. Not anymore. The rise of Project B has made sure of that. That league isn't a rumor. It's a threat. And it's offering top-tier talent salaries the WNBA still hasn't matched. $2 million a year, guaranteed. That number isn't just attractive. It's life-changing. And players are noticing. Because if you're Cunningham or any other veteran who's seen the inside of this league, the injuries, the off-season hustles, the one-year contracts, the relocation for pennies on a dollar, how can you ignore a better offer? You can't, and many won't. That's what makes Clark's commitment so significant and so fragile. Yes, she's all in right now, but even she isn't immune to external pressures. If the league falters in its negotiations, if stars start leaving en masse, if sponsors start following the money elsewhere, what happens next? Does Clark stay forever loyal to a league that doesn't evolve? Or does she eventually have to ask the same question Cunningham's already asking? That's the pressure on the WNBA right now. Not just to retain talent, but to prove it deserves it. Players are watching. So are agents. So are fans. And they're all paying attention to whether this league is ready to support stars and its core players. Because without both, it won't last. You can't build an empire on one name. You need structure. You need sustainability. And right now, the CBA situation is the biggest test the league has faced since its recent surge in popularity. If they get it right, this will be a turning point. A new chapter where player empowerment and league success finally align. Where athletes don't have to choose between love for the game and financial security. But if they get it wrong, players will leave. Not in protest, but in survival. And fans will follow them. So while Clark's return might feel like the happy ending everyone was waiting for, the real story is just beginning. The league's next move, how it handles free agency, how it treats veterans, how it finalizes its CBA, will decide if this moment becomes the foundation of something bigger or the beginning of another missed opportunity. Comment below. Do you think Clark's return is enough to stabilize the league? Or is Cunningham's doubt a warning sign of deeper issues? Like if you're watching these power dynamics shift in real time, share if you believe player security should come before marketing hype, and subscribe to stay updated, because the future of the league is being written right now.